does lack a feminine perspective.
Hello, Menace Bunny and Menace Cat. I am a female academic. My specialty is in experimental psychology, cognitive, and mostly it's the interdisciplinary field of psychology and technology in computers, tutoring systems, and learning sciences. I am a PhD candidate. My dissertation is going to be about reading texts on controversial topics and also listening to agents, giving their opinion on the controversial topics, and I wanted to see the clashes of their cognitive disequilibrium regarding their prior beliefs and how their learning outcome is going to be especially when they read a text that goes against their prior belief. And the texts are going to be on issues such as the men's rights movement. I am, you could call me a men's rights advocate, even though strictly speaking, I'm not one because it's not my day job. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Talking about
anti-feminism.
Yeah,
yes.
And Cassie J's journey so she immersed herself into the MRA movement, and at the end she ended up hating feminists.
So we do have a confession to make.
Yeah, once upon a time, I used to say those sad little words. I'm not like other girls, though. I'm not like other girls. I'm one of the guys, and I used to wear it like a fucking badge of honor.
No, I got a worse one. When I used to sometimes say, when I was with the blokes, it'd be like, I don't understand why women are so difficult, which I would follow up with, yeah, women are bitches. And they'd be like, yeah, okay.
Oh my god, the bro code. And we were so sucked into it. Now, I come from a rather traditional conservative family, so I'm very much so the Bar black sheep. But a very much loved Bar black sheep, may I just add. Because I am unique and special in my own way, apparently. And they've all just decided to find it charming for some reason. So there's that. So this is where I'm coming from. But I used to be all like, fucking makeup, diets, fuck that shit. I'm gonna be like a guy. I drink beer. I can drink you under the table, sir. Of course she immersed herself. Of course she became friends with these guys and got sucked into their way of thinking, because human beings are aggressively social creatures. It's not usury or anything in any way, shape or form for us to just be like, I need to survive, so I'm going to just grab onto you and we're going to survive together. And so I think one of the things about being one of those girls that was like, I'm just like all the other boys, was because in a way, you are you grow up to be, afraid of guys, really, and you kind of feel a bit of protection around men. And if you make yourself into a man, then nobody's going to fuck with you. So, you're trying to... So I think that's where I was coming from.
Yeah, it was almost kind of like, I just couldn't climb the social ladder fast enough at school to fit in with the girls. And because of that, I found that the only thing I could do was just join the boys. And even not always then I fitted in. It's just I happened to find a bunch that just didn't.
A bunch of dude bros who,
yeah.
Probably thought they could get into your pants, and which is why they were, allowing you to fit in. Which is a little bit sad to say.
Yeah, well, unfortunately I learned that many years later, because we're talking primary school here. It would take me probably another, 15-something years to realise that a lot of those seemingly innocent reasons for allowing me into the boys' clubs weren't exactly as...
Yeah, because you're never really part of the boys' club.
Well,
you were like the token girl.
Yeah. It only, honestly, it took me until, before just in my late 20s to realise, oh, shit.
I'm also a minority. I'm originally from China, and that Chinese is my first language. And I was also raised in quite a conservative society, because the Chinese society is quite conservative, and I would actually even bet that the family that I was raised in is much more conservative than the family that you're raised in. I was a feminist. When I finished college, when I went to graduate school, I became an anti-feminist. And I want to say that I'm not like other girls. And I will tell you the reason why. It's not the reason that you listed. The reason why I'm not like other girls or even most other people is because you could say that people perceive me as a walking contradiction. But if there's anybody who will be wise enough to think through my points of views and dealing with my feelings, my personal experiences and so forth, it's actually not a contradiction, but people just perceive so. And as a result, they can't really figure me out. And this goes the same for even my advisor. I don't have a very close relationship with my advisor. This is kind of an unfortunate thing, and it really deterred and slowed my program as a result. And I can give an example. So an example would be, growing up, I was a tomboy, right? Most of my friends are boys. At the same time, though, when I reached college, I started to develop a dislike regarding men. And even till today, from some respects, I still have like a kind of dislike regarding men. So I don't like men very much from some respects. And yet I advocate for men's rights. Isn't that a walking contradiction? But actually it's not. The dislike came from the fact that I had bad experiences. You know, they're not the worst experiences. It's not as nearly as bad as some MRAs had with, you know, women tricking them into fatherhood or things like that. But still, they had an effect on me. And as I've talked about in another video, when you're a heterosexual person and you are sort of built and created to love the opposite sex, and that's what the opposite sex does really affects you, right? So even if you had bad experiences with one person of the opposite sex that you really invested in, you started to sort of have a dislike for that. You start to overgeneralize, or at least more easily overgeneralize those attributes to the rest of the population. And I didn't just have one bad experience, I had several. So why then did I become a men's rights advocate? Because of boys club, yeah. That's keep telling yourself that. Even till today, most of my friends are men. It's not that I want to join the boys club, it's just that's how it ended up being. The reason for this is very simple. It's because I live by a principle. I hold principled living to be very important, and this is not the most wise way of living. Let me just tell you right now, if you want to live a happy, healthy, and fulfilled life, it is really not. It's almost a slow form of suicide. So I don't recommend it. It's really a decision that you have to make. To live like a principled life, you could say, you know, it's almost like living an ethical life. And this sounds very pompous. It sounds like I'm trying to show off or not, but really it's not. It's something I tried and I've seen the real disadvantage of. But I still choose it. The reason why I choose it is because at the end of the day, what I strongly feel is that the person you can control the most is yourself. So everything else is like a gamble. So even yourself is like a gamble, but it's much less of a gamble than you gambling on other people. So you can choose happiness, and you can choose to go with the crowd and make other people feel good. That can be a priority. like a join meetup group or join group, and you just sort of sync your psychology with the group psychology. You just sort of let go of self, and people who manage to do that tend to become very happy, because we are social animals, and when we successfully build a community, there are just so many benefits. And for example, my mother is such a person, and you know, she just she's very happy. She considers herself having a very happy life, and she has all these connections, which means that if she gets laid off, she knows where to find help. She knows where to get employed. If anything in her life, went bad, she knows how to get help, and people will help her. So it is very important. I didn't choose this just because, number one, I don't think I have the skill to really make other people very happy. And the second thing is that I just, from my personal experience, I just really feel like you can invest so much, but if you fail, you throw yourself, you throw self-integrity away for the gamble, and I'm just not somebody who's willing to do that. But as a result of living in a principled life, what you get to keep is self-respect, okay? But there's so many things that you don't get to have. So you have very limited number of friends. So I have very limited number of friends. And people don't tend to like you. It's very difficult for people to like you. I mean, because they don't really understand you. They don't understand why you do the things you do and why you're contrary all the time and stuff like that. But I'm not contrary all the time, just seems like it. Unless you're somebody who's like a freaking genius or who's very talented at something, especially things that have productive value, so things that can give you a lot of money, it is very difficult for you to be accomplished at anything. This is just the way it is. It's a very sad, almost pathetic way of living, but it's just the one that I chose. So from this perspective, I'm not like other women, and I'm certainly not even like most people. So to address your experience regarding boys club and things like that, and one of you, I don't know which one, said that you did martial arts. I did martial arts for 6 years. I started with judo, and then I switched to taekwondo, and I did that all throughout my college, and then I did additional 2 years of it when I was in grad school, and then I quit. And I got pretty good. When I was in college, I was training about 7 days a week, really. Every single day I was training for at least 2 hours. When I got into martial art, the reason why I went into martial art was because I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to kick ass. I was the feminists in movies and TV series that kick ass was very appealing to me, and I believed that I can do just as well as men can if I just practice hard enough. So I trained very hard and I accelerated, even though I don't really have the bodily disposition of it. Ever since I was born, I had very bad health. My mother used to tell me that I was sick pretty much every single month. And when I was in China, and I always fail PE, they don't grade on effort, they grade on how much you can improve, and I could not improve much at all. So there's all these things. So you could say that, yeah, I joined a boys club. Now, you say you could never be part of the boys club. The problem is that I never thought of it as a boys club, okay? It's just a thing. I didn't hang around with girls when I was a little girl because I was sort of adventurous. Girls are usually not like that. So I ran around a lot, like I got lost several times. My mother got really pissed off, right? Because I just on my own and I was quite wild. And boys are more like that than girls. That's how I could hang out with boys and not girls. And it's not that I didn't want to hang out with girls, and this is sort of one of the things. I wanted to be part of the girls' club, actually, but I couldn't. Isn't that interesting? The boys accepted me, not the girls. So this is one of the things. Now, when I grow up, when I hit teenage years and until to young adult, I had some trouble with boys, even though, like I was in a boys club. Again, a contradiction, right? But not really, just because life is complicated. And then eventually, even till today, some of my best friends, my current best friend is right now is my ex, and he's a guy, obviously, and there are other guys I met on the internet and elsewhere in conferences who are my friends, who are the people who are willing to talk to me. Now, you say that a woman is never going to be able to be in a boys' club. The problem with your thinking is that you think it's a boys' club, but no. There are boys' clubs, for sure, okay? But just because there's a group of people composed of mostly men or boys doesn't mean that it's a boys' club. For example, most of the groups of people, majority of are men that I hang out with, more accurate description, are from academia. And no, they don't care whether you're a girl or boy. They only care about your opinions and what you think and things like that. And there's a lot of benefits that you don't know. There's a lot of benefits to be among men rather than women. One of the biggest benefits is that if I'm in one of those conferences and I'm in a foreign place, the men tend to be more willing to take care of me than the women. It's just the way it is. I know that this sounds like I'm being a misogynist or something, but this is just a fact of the matter. So, I have, for example, I'm very picky when it comes to eating. It comes with the package of being in bad health, and my mother just makes things that I'm willing to eat. Otherwise, she thinks I'm going to die or something. So I'm a very picky eater, and I also sort of eat very weirdly. I have a very weird metabolism. It's very high, and it became higher after my intense training of martial arts, which means that I get hungry pretty often, and generally I try to eat right before I go to bed, so then I don't get hungry during the middle of the night, and which is something quite common especially when I was doing martial arts. So if I'm in one of these foreign places and it's 3 a.m. and let's say I went to a party or something, well, not a party like a youth party, like it's a party organized, let's say, by a conference. And I come out of it, I hang out, and it's 3 a.m. and I'm hungry, right? Usually it's a guy who's willing to find out which bar, for example, it's still open so I can get something to eat. And he's the one who's more willing, because he thinks it's his duty and it's part of gynocentrism, to take me there to make sure that I'm okay and make sure that I get home safely. That's generally what a guy does. Okay? So this is one of the benefits. And you can say that, well, they're never going to respect me because I'm a woman, even though they're willing to protect me. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure how that works, because if they don't respect you, why would they protect you? I mean, if they don't respect you, wouldn't they just go like, shoo, I don't want to deal with you, women? But I guess what you're saying is that, well, they don't respect you because if you don't wear any makeup, then they think you're lazy. If you wear any makeup, they think you're a slut. Never happened to me. I didn't wear a lot of makeup in college, and I started wearing makeup in graduate school, mostly just because, I don't know, like, I have a little bit of the skin condition, and and my face is kind of like filled with the freckles a little bit, and I find that embarrassing personally, so I sort of cover it up a little bit. What I actually found out was that men like makeup. They don't like you to overdo your makeup, but they like you to do makeup with good taste. And the same with, what you wear. People propagated this idea that men don't care about what women wear, or they find a woman who wear nice clothes a slut. This what I found was completely not true. Men like women dressing well, just like women like men dressing well, right? I mean, if I see an attractive guy and he's dressed in very good taste, and I'll be like, that's pretty nice, even if I don't have any sexual desire towards the guy, I would still go like, it's the same thing, okay? No, they don't think you're a slut. In fact, if you don't dress like a slut, okay, and which is not something hard. I mean, I don't see a lot of women who dress like a slut, to be honest. But if you don't dress like one, if you don't, if you don't wear some skimpy outfit, men don't think you're a slut. So again, this is just a stereotype. And so going back to how I can separate my own personal feelings of, having something like, deep down unconsciously against men because of bad experiences, to still having respect for men, still advocate for men's rights, and being anti-feminist and all that stuff. It's because other than, living a very principled life, I'm curious, I want to find out about things. And this is something that I don't see feminists or even most people have, which is very unfortunate. So listening to you two, I don't find you two to be a very curious people, to be curious people, because number one, you talking about the red pill film and you don't even go see it. You don't want to listen to what MRAs have to say. These are the things that, just growing up, I want to find out about things. And also, you're not willing to put yourself in a different mindset. And this is an experiment that I do to myself over and over again because they're interesting. You conduct an experiment, you can do your own personal experiment, and one of the things is be observant. So act a certain way and see how people actually treat you, and it's very interesting. I love this journey. I'm still doing it, especially around men. And when you do this, you start freeing yourself from these stereotypes, from the schema, because you start to discover that, actually men are just like women, just like everybody. There's a variety of them. And they're just like anybody, any human being, women, just like a woman. You treat them a certain way and they will treat you back a certain way. That's just the human nature. So to claim that they don't respect you because you're a woman predispose you to shutting yourself to anything else, right? Because you want to say that you can somehow, you want to say that this for a fact, as if you can read minds. I personally don't care what men think of me. I had a guy friend. He's a professor, and he confessed to me when I was hanging out with him once about he has some dirty thoughts about me. And my response to that is there's no such thing as thought crimes. I don't care if he dreamt about raping me, really. I don't care, really. It's what he thinks. He keeps to himself. I care about how he treats me. And this is what you should care about, not what men believe about women, but how men treats women. And I know that you think you know how men would treat women, but I think you don't, because you don't even want to attempt the experiment of opening your sight, opening up your curiosity, and do an experiment on your own and be fearless about it. And when I start doing this, to change and adjust my beliefs and expectations. It's such a freeing feeling. I can just give you one example. Being raised in a conservative society, my mother doesn't like me out on the street by myself. Even though it's something that I do every day, I just don't tell her all the time. And she especially wouldn't want me to be out late at night. So I'm like 30 years old, and she still treats me like I'm 13 or something. And one of the things that she's afraid of was that she's afraid that I might get kidnapped, even though statistically, men are more like being kidnapped or just harmed in general by a stranger than women are. So this is something that I have like a reflex against. So if there's a guy coming towards me or something, I do still get a bit scared, right? But after listening to the men's rights advocate, after listening to a lot of this stuff, I started to do this experiment. I started to think, okay, next time a man comes towards me, I'm just going to assume that he means something else rather than his wanting to hurt me or want to sexually objectify me or something. And surprise! Guess what I found out? Not a single man that who did this came at me because they had anything close to wanting to have sex with me or something. Not a single one. Several of them came towards me because they're security guards. One came towards me there's the other day, and this was a bit scary because I was in a neighborhood and I was trying to pick up a guy friend of mine, and this neighborhood was just pitch black and I couldn't find a house where my friend resides in. And this guy just came out of the dark. Like, he just came out of like the dark, and he just said, hello? Right? It's kind of scary, right? But I just immediately I set my mind to, he probably wants to help me out. And that's exactly what happened. He tells me, where do you want to go? And I told him, I said, I'm trying to find this number. And he actually said that I'm actually not from around here, so I don't know. Maybe it's over there. And then afterwards, like, he kind of realized that he's sort of towering over me because I'm quite short, I'm kind of small. And he just immediately said that, I don't mean to scare you, but I just don't want you to be out there by yourself on this, because it can be kind of dangerous. So please try to find a house and just like get to your friend as fast as you can, because you're making me kind of concerned. And this is generally how men act. Several other times men come towards me was when I was in a foreign country. And this is also another thing too, like after knowing about gynocentrism, I just started to automatically expect, because that I have a privilege of being helped. And I'm not somebody who has very good survival skills, honestly, like self-survival skills, and I have very bad sense of direction. I only have good sense of direction when I can visualize landmarks. Like I don't know, I don't have any sense of like east, west, north, south. Like I don't know. Like if somebody says go south, I will be like, where's south? Like I don't, and I get lost very, very often. But I just sort of took it for granted that there will be people who help me, and they do, generally men, once again. And many times I don't even need to ask for this, just men coming towards me, and I automatically know he wants to help me. Imagine that, right? So now you can argue that they don't respect you because they treat you like children or whatnot. Again, not from my experience. Because if I start to talk about something, something that's very, academic with a guy, if it's something that contradicts them, they might get a little defensive. But they listen and they consider it, and maybe they even kind of stop talking and that kind of thing. So this is how most people will treat you if you treat them with respect. So again, the boys club, if you don't think of it as a boys club, if you just think of it as like a human club and don't think about the gender, and enjoy, this is what I do, enjoy being the company of the other sex that you're built to love, right? You'll have a good time.